Welcome to the Adoption and Foster Care Journey, a podcast to encourage, educate, and equip you to care for children and youth through adoption, foster, and kinship care. Hosted by an adoptive mom with over 22 years of kinship and adoptive parenting experience. She's on this journey with you. Please welcome Sandra Flach.
An argument started among the disciples as to which of them would be the greatest. Jesus, knowing their thoughts, took a little child and had him stand beside him. Then he said to them, "Whoever welcomes this little child in my name welcomes me, and whoever welcomes me welcomes the one who sent me. For it is the one who is least among you all who is the greatest." That is Luke 9, verses 46 through 48. And I'm your host, Sandra Flach. Welcome to the Adoption and Foster Care Journey, where you will be encouraged and equipped for your unique parenting journey. I'm a mom of 5 kids through adoption, including 2 young adults, both diagnosed with fetal alcohol syndrome when they were little. So I get it. Still on this parenting journey. So many of us are, dare I say, older moms on this journey, older parents who are peers, are empty nesters, and we are not. And it's okay. It's okay. It's part of the ministry God has called us to. But I get it. I understand the challenges that come with parenting children who experienced trauma and who also were prenatally exposed to substances, especially alcohol. And I'm passionate about supporting you with resources. So in addition to this podcast, I offer FASD, fetal alcohol spectrum disorder, parent coaching, an online support group, and in-person and online workshops. Now, I have to share with you all. Last week, we hosted our first ever Hope Retreat in the Adirondack Mountains of upstate New York. If you're a frequent listener or follower of me on social media, you know that my family and I spend a lot of time up here in the mountains. It's just such a restful, peaceful, soul-filling place. And so our FASD support group, Hope for the FASD Journey, we decided to have a retreat to see who would come, who would travel across the country and come to the mountains of upstate New York and spend some time together in fellowship and for some renewal and rest and devotions and just connection and community. So there was about 12 of us, and you have to check out our social media. So whether you go to my personal social media at Sandra Flach or our Adoption and Foster Care Journey social media, you'll get to see pictures of the time that we spent together. And it was amazing. Our theme was Isaiah 40:31. And our goal was, no matter how empty we arrived, that God would fill us and renew us, and that we would leave with our cups overflowing and our hearts overflowing with God's goodness and grace and love, so that we would be sustained for the long haul of this parenting journey. And I have to say, mission accomplished. We did exactly that. So I'm so grateful for this past weekend of our Hope Retreat. And really, if you are feeling like you need a community like that, our online support group for parents and caregivers raising children with prenatal exposure to alcohol, whether your child has a diagnosis or not, because it's so hard to get a diagnosis. Some of our families don't have that. But there's about 25 of us from across the country who are part of this support group. And we have kids ranging in ages from, I think, 4 years old to 24 years old, right? So a vast array of ages, of our kids and experiences, and we come together and we need each other, and we're so grateful to have each other. So check that out if you're feeling isolated, alone, like nobody gets it. And if you share something going on at home, people will think you are like crazy and have that shocked look on your face. And we can all share stories in our group, and we're all like nodding our heads like, yep, been there, done that. We get it. So it is a safe and wonderful place to land if you are parenting specifically in that space of FASD. So in addition to the support group, we also offer online training. And I have an upcoming workshop I want to tell you about called Wired Differently. It is a 3-hour online workshop for parents, caregivers, professionals, anybody working with kids with prenatal exposure, or even any brain-based difference, because what we unpack throughout the 3 hours, whether your kiddo has ADHD, autism, trauma, FASD, exposure to drugs, or any of those things that makes them have a brain difference, what we unpack there will help, because some of our kids have all of the above, right? So this Wired Differently is a perfect workshop for anyone on this parenting journey. Really, we'll unpack the impacts that all of those traumas have on the brain and body, and go over the primary, secondary, and tertiary symptoms of brain differences, including FASD, of course, and explore accommodations and strengths-based strategies to support our children, teens, and young adults. So it is going to be offered on September 16th at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. It is 3 hours, and we will be giving all attendees a certificate of completion. So if you need that for your continuing your foster care license and education there, you can use it for that as well. So there's a link in the show notes to register. Reserve your spot today. It's right around the corner on September 16th. So register today. Also, I've got lots of travel coming up. I'm hoping to make August a restful month for me, and get ready for my fall travel season. So in September, I will be at the Christian Alliance for Orphans conference in Atlanta. That is September 23rd through 25th. I will be doing an FASD coaching room that you can sign up to come into, or you can just come into. I don't think you have to sign up. And then we're also doing a meetup, an FASD parent meetup, where we get to connect and share, and I'll pray for you. So that is at CAFO. I'll also have a table in the exhibitor hall, so you can come by, grab some resources. My books will be there. I will be there. We can take a selfie. And from Atlanta, I will be flying to the FASD United Affiliates Impact Week in Washington, D.C., where I will be from September 26th through 29th. And then in October, I will be at Replanted in Chicago. That is October 15th through the 17th. I will be doing 3 breakout sessions there. And of course, I'll have a table as well. So if you can get to Chicago, come see me there. I look forward to connecting with all of you in person who will be attending those events. I have room in my calendar still. So if you are interested in having me come and speak at your event, if you have a church foster and adoption ministry, a support group, and you want a guest speaker, I'm happy to join you in person, or even online, zoomed in, or whatever. If you're planning a retreat for foster and adopted moms, just reach out. My email is in the show notes, Sandra Flach at justicefororphansny.org. And you'll be able to, you'll get me directly. I check my own email, and I will respond to you personally. And even if you just have a question or a comment or want to connect, feel free. Email me. I love hearing from you. I also have a free gift for you. So 12 breath prayers to steady your heart is available. Just go to my website, sandraflack.com, and you can download the free breath prayers. Again, that's sandraflack.com. There's a link in the show notes. You probably can get there by going through our Justice for Orphans website as well, and clicking on the adoption and foster care journey. You'll get there somehow, but definitely sandraflack.com. You'll get those free breath prayers. And I use breath prayers in my newest book, Soul Care Saturday 52 Devotions for Foster and Adopted Moms, which is available on Amazon. And there's a breath prayer for every week that correlates with the scripture verse of the week and the devotion. So just they're so good for really centering your heart on the Lord, calming your nervous system, taking some deep breaths, and praying at the same time. So check out my book on Amazon, Soul Care Saturday, 52 Devotions for Foster and Adopted Moms. And you'll get 52 breath prayers there, but you can get 12 free ones from the website. So now to our guest. Today we have with us Reverend Scott Fuller. He is a visionary leader and seasoned community development professional dedicated to serving at-risk youth and advancing child welfare reforms in Georgia. With a BA in pre-law from King's University and a Master's of Divinity from Gordon Conwell Theological Seminary, he combines academic depth with expertise, extensive hands-on, probably expertise too, but hands-on experience. As Vice President of Advancement at Murphy-Harpst Children's Centers, Inc., Scott has been instrumental in securing funding and building partnerships that expand vital mental health and community-based programs. With a background in nonprofit management, ministry, and public relations, he is passionate about inspiring others to engage in impactful missions. And he's here to inspire us today. Please welcome Reverend Scott Fuller. Hey, welcome to the show, Scott.
Thank you, Sandra. I'm delighted to be here. Appreciate the invitation.
Well, I'm excited. I thank you so much for joining us. I love what you do as VP of Advancement at Murphy-Harpst, standing in the gap for Georgia's most vulnerable children. Would you tell us about Murphy-Harpst and the incredible work that you're doing down there in Georgia?
Yes, thank you. So we're a 100-year-old agency with a wonderful story. Two amazing women, women of distinction in the state of Georgia, both starting orphanages a century ago during the previous pandemic. Today, we serve kids in DFACS custody, Department of Family, Children's Services. The kids we serve are the most vulnerable. These are youth who are dealing with some substantial mental health, behavioral health challenges due to the trauma of their home of origin, the trauma of just moving around a system, a foster care system that is inadequate to meet their particular needs. And so they come to us needing healing, needing the hope of Christ, needing, a future. And so we are in the gap working with that population. We have a campus-based program, a residential program for kids 13 up through, their teenage years, high school. We have a transitional living program for kids who are aging out on that campus. We also do foster care recruitment, provide foster family support with consultants, recruitment and consulting for the families throughout the metro Atlanta area, Northwest Georgia, and into Augusta. And we have group homes, what we call the Evolve Initiative. It's a new program where we serve youth in a family-styled setting, like a foster home. But in this case, the kids stay, and we have rotating fosterers that go in on a week-to-week basis, and we have an assigned therapist, behavioral aid, and professional support for those kids to help them more quickly stabilize, keep them from moving place to place to place, and prepare them for more long-term placements in a foster family home or an adoptive setting. So that has been a very successful program. But Murphy-Harpst, the heart of our work is the therapeutic services we provide in the beautiful 160-acre campus in Northwest Georgia with equine therapy, art, music, a lot of things that provide opportunities for kids to heal. And to know that people love them and care for them, and they're there to help them along. So yeah, that's what we do.
Yeah, I love that. I love the holistic approach. So you've got the all of the different therapies and there's that spiritual component and just really contributing to healing, which is so vitally important for kids in foster care and kids who've come from adverse childhood experiences there. And you shared with me a story of healing of a girl who came to the program who I believe you said she was initially violent, but she just graduated from the program. Can you kind of share her story with us?
Yeah, so this young lady, she entered foster care around age 4 with her sister, and had been in foster care all her life, and like
Mm,
so many, languishing through the movement from place to place, which, for a child in that developmental age, the fear and so forth, frustrations. So when she arrived, she was really struggling. She was a teenager, but she was able to settle down and find and discover through our campus-based academy her academic ability. She's had a high IQ, but had a
mhm,
lot of trauma, right?
mhm,
And never really had placement to be able to catch up, right?
mhm.
If you don't stay in a placement long enough, you're going to get behind academically and be frustrated. So she had the stability she needed in our residential program. She began to discover artistic ability. So she was really spent a lot of time in the art therapy program. But she moved into our transitional living. So she was with us for a few years, moved into transitional living, where she got a job and she was going to the high school. She was admitted in our local high school off campus. She graduated a year early with honors.
Wow.
Yeah, and several other awards that she was given. And just recently, about 2, 3 weeks ago, our staff helped her get set up in her apartment down near Atlanta. So she's attending Georgia State University, actually matriculating. I think it's this week or next week. Just a remarkable young lady. But to watch her go from the instability of movement,
Mhm.
and the difficulty emotionally, um, relating with others, even getting to that high school moments where she was thinking about running away with her sweetheart, her boyfriend, like that sense of what am I going to do? But then to
Mhm.
really realize, hear the conversations with adults and, see what she's capable of, and that confidence she found to move on, to graduate, to go to college. And so it's so good to see that. That doesn't happen with all the kids, obviously, in the population that we serve. But it's one of those stories that tells you that, we are doing the right thing. These kids are resilient with
Mhm.
the kind of services that they need and the kind of love and care that they're created to have developmentally. Yeah, it's a great story.
Yeah, I love that. And just that holistic approach and often so many times I think a vast I don't have this actual stats, right? But it's my understanding a vast majority of kids from foster care don't go on to college, right?
Right.
They don't do that. So just the fact that, this young woman came and experienced the healing she needed through her high school years and that support of caring, loving individuals and people in your staff, the leadership there, allowed her to be able to now she's in college and
Right.
that is a
And
story of hope.
I think one of the things that contributes to it, we do on our campus, really work with the community, bring the community to campus for volunteer involvement, to be involved, so our kids don't feel isolated from community. So
Mm.
we're very engaged off campus and on campus with community. And one of the things we've done in the last, I guess, 6, 7 years anyway, is to bring college students, universities, the Wesley Foundation at University of Georgia, West Georgia, Kennesaw State, Berry College has come. So we have Appalachian State University. We've had these universities who so come through the year and do a volunteer mission trip for a week of their spring break or their summer break begins. Some will do like a weekend, celebrate the prom, and help put on the prom. And that engagement, bringing university students on our campus has a way of framing for our youth a future
Yeah.
possibility that they otherwise in the foster care system, these youth just don't meet. They don't see that. And so taking them to uh, a ball game on a campus, taking them up for a hiking trip at Berry College, those things from both our recreation standpoint and the volunteers on our campus, I think provides an opportunity so that a young lady, I need to ask her this. I did not ask her this, but you know, did that impact her at all?
Mm.
Just seeing that, relating to having conversations in a meal with some of those other students, give her a sense that, I know those people. I know who they are. I know I can do that too. I want to be where they are and so those are things we deliberately do,
Mhm.
knowing, you know, children are born to imitate,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
For weal or woe. And for us to be able now as a first responder, with the absence of parenting at this developmental age, to multiply adults, Christian community, and give to them that opportunity to see uh, their future through others. That's the power of a grandparent, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that we do that in our own creative ways on our campus, and really invest. And I would say for all fosterers who are bringing a child into their home, I mean, really, we never do this alone.
Right.
And so to be involved within community, to bring community in, invite people in, host people, because children need to see that adult interaction. They're going to be adults interacting with adults far more than with peers as a children. And so, anyway, that I think just that encouragement to bring in the help and aid of others, because it's doing more than giving you the help. It's providing the role modeling, the adulting, the kind of emotional regulation that the child is ultimately needing by way of just imitation.
Yeah, I love that. And I remember hearing an adult, former foster youth. His name is completely escaping me right now, but I remember hearing him at a CAFO a number of years ago, and he just said every foster youth, probably every youth, right, is just one caring adult away from success. And so the role models and the mentoring and all of that you're supplying these kids is really
Yeah.
giving them those
Yeah.
opportunities.
And I think sometimes we think we overthink the situation.
Yeah.
Right. And there's a lot to think through in terms of real therapeutic, biological realities, physical realities our kids are faced with. But, just to be present with them,
Mm.
as caring adults, knowing they're going to imitate, even if we don't think they are, in due time, right? We're planting seeds we don't realize, so get rid of some of those bad practices as adults, bring in the good, right? Just a kind of little offshoot of this, but, my wife's educator, we've been involved in education a lot, with young people, raising our own kids, but um, she was an ELA teacher in middle school. Kids were just behind. No kids want to read. And they had all these programs. They want to help get the kids to progress and all that. And my wife's like, this is not going to work. I just need to read to these kids. And she spent time in class where she would read out loud to the kids. These are seventh graders, who don't want to read, struggling to read. And she spent a little bit of time reading books at the beginning of her class while they sat there and colored or did whatever they wanted to do. And their scores, their
Mm.
desire to read went up, exponentially, because they're hearing, they're seeing, and they're wanting to imitate. I wish I could do that. Listen to how she reads, and so there's that sense of, um, spending time with kids, doing some of those things, they will want to follow.
Yeah, I love that. Now, your passion clearly shines through for the work that you do. But Scott, you're not a foster or adopted parent yourself. So, what led you to, you know, this work, this incredible work that you're doing with vulnerable children, foster youth at Murphy-Harpst. What's your story?
Yeah, I would say by accident, but for the fact that I know the course of life and the Lord's leading. My grandparents, um, um, were in their early retirement, were house parents at Georgia Baptist Children's Home in Georgia when I was in elementary school. We took trips down there, but I never, that was just in the back of my mind, my young conscience, but went on through life and on the way to law school and uh, planning for that. I ended up getting hijacked by the church in a way through conversion and just desire to know the scriptures and then to preach and teach. And so I became a pastor in ministry for years. And along with my ministry in the mountains of Carolina, was introduced to a children's home up there that was close by the church I served. And so helped there as a chaplain. And so there was some weaving in and out of foster care, but it was never sort of the calling, right? Um, so after pastoring for years, my last place was in Boone, North Carolina, and I was involved, honored to be able to work with some folks there to organize a new congregation. And after organizing and serving them as their first pastor for a few years, I resigned to step away. They needed to move on, and I needed to move on. And we had a place back here in Georgia for me to be on a sabbatical, to take some time away. And during that time, we moved back to Georgia, and a friend of mine introduced me to Murphy-Harpst, and I was just looking to get busy, do something. I can't sit around and drink coffee all day. So how can I serve? And I thought, hey, I've been around the foster care world. Let me do some of that, or let me go help out in some way. And while at Murphy-Harpst, the door of just the reality of foster care and the intensity of the situation, the languishing children, in particular young man that I met there in that first week, and being a part of that world, I was hijacked by the youth, by the Lord, and what I thought would be a few months of kind of roll up my sleeves help has been, a growing sense of call to help these young people and the agencies around the state that are also languishing. When you are in the world of taking care of the vulnerable and working with people in crisis, you are taking on a burden. And I think the state, local communities, foster families, I just saw so many people are languishing under the weight of the burden of these youth. And how can I, Lord, I'll put these young people's name on my prayer list like I did the folks in the church. And how can I begin to help? What can I do to help inspire these people to love these kids and see these kids have hope? So that's kind of, it's grown. I've done different roles at Murphy-Harpst. Now I'm the chief storyteller, resource getter, so to speak. But at the center is the regard for, the first young man I met at Murphy-Harpst and all the other young people. And that's the heart of what we do.
Yeah, I love that. I love your heart, and just how the Lord, he directs our steps, and we don't always know the direction we're headed. You were just a kid when your grandparents were serving at, that Baptist Children's Home. So I think those little seeds get planted throughout life, and then he uses them and connects the dots. And here we are, right? You chose the verse that we opened with when Jesus told his disciples, whoever welcomes the little child in my name welcomes me, and whoever welcomes me welcomes the one who sent me, for it is the one who is least among you who is the greatest. Scott, why did you choose those verses from Luke 9:46 through 48?
Wow. There's a lot to that story, and I don't want to be long-winded, but when I was preaching through the Gospel of Luke at the church I'd planted, Grace Highlands, and so that was the last chapter. That's the pivotal moment where Jesus reveals his glory at the Mount of Transfiguration. and moves in the direction to the cross. And a lot can be said about that chapter, but I preached on it. And I came to Murphy-Harpst right after that. And how do I put this? So in the text, the disciples, in this movement of Christ to the cross, they don't get it yet. And they're arguing who's the greatest.
Mm-hmm.
Sizing up their future and their ministry and where they're going to be, and all the opportunities that are out there for them. And Jesus brings these boys down to size, begins to prepare them for the future ministry, not with a lecture, in the presence of a child.
Yeah.
I like to think, I can't prove it from the text, but this child that Jesus presents to them, is the child that is in previous section, where Jesus comes down the mountain and this young man is possessed and they're praying. Nobody can cast this. Nobody can cast out the demon, and Jesus comes and delivers this young boy. So anyway, I found myself at Murphy-Harpst in the interaction with a young man who was in a deep crisis. I found myself sort of in this gospel narrative. Jesus was presenting me with a child, and humbling me, reminding me that I'm making too much of myself and my own ambition and ministry, kind of carrying some people talk about compassion fatigue. And, it's a little bit of a Messiah complex, what all I can do for the Lord. That pride is so deeper than we like to think. When compassion's on the surface, there's pride underneath. That can lead to a lot of burnout. That I think that this depends on me. And Jesus in this illustration is not only focusing ministry to the least and to the lowliest, and honoring and exalting those who are lowly, but there's also a sense in which this is bringing them down to size to recognize their own dependence upon the Lord, who is faithful to be there to meet every need. And so I was being healed by the Lord at a time in ministry and life through the children in Murphy-Harpst and children in state custody. I was no stronger, more competent to save my own soul or move forward than they are. And I need the Lord, and He is there for me. And so I was able to really minister from a place of the grace, the sufficiency, the strength of the Lord, rather than my own resource. So that passage has been a real important text to me, just how the Lord in His own providence and shepherding my own soul and heart brought me from a wonderful, wonderful ministry and opportunities there and other churches I've served here in Georgia, but to bring me to that place with the children. So yeah, that's why I chose it.
Yeah. And that's one. Can you share a little bit about the young man? Because I remember you telling me the story, and this one young man, you were not prepared for really the trauma.
Right. So yeah, thank you. So Jaden arrived the same week I arrived. I was going to go worked on the cottage. Didn't realize the level of mental health and struggles the kids have. I was thinking youth ministry. Hey, let's do something easy, right? In the gap. But he had been, that week the police had dropped him off. So this is 11 years ago. Dropped him off at Murphy-Harpst, and he had begun to collect in a half pint milk carton his fecal matter. We didn't know it until he started throwing it out his room at staff and other kids. And it was I'd never seen anything like that before. This is not what I came to do this is my sabbatical, right? This
Right.
is my time to rest. This is my time to, I didn't want to come serve. I just didn't understand it. And I'm like, hey, this is not for me. Somebody else have to deal with this. And I talked with a counselor, therapist, that week before, I don't sign up for something and just quit. And so, and she was sharing with me his background. And that as a very young boy, he had learned a survival technique that if he soiled his bed, he soiled his room, they would not touch him. They would not hurt him. And so he had arrived in a strange place from that horrible environment he'd been in. And he was doing what he needed to do to keep himself safe.
Right.
And he didn't want any other kid coming in with it. He didn't want an adult. He did that first week. And she started telling me the story. I just wept. And it was that moment I was being broken in a point of feeling like, are you so established in ministry and your own ideas of who you can serve that you can't be here for Jaden? Man, it was heartbreaking. I cried all the way home, 30-minute drive, and just felt the Lord, they need to be on your prayer list. You need to be committed to this pastoral charge. And so my next few months and really the next couple of years, my beginning same with Jaden and watching and being a part of his own development. And within 3 months, watching this young man begin to settle in, begin to interact with others, feel safe for the first time in his entire life. He was safe. That's powerful. It's hard for me even to understand that. I've been in times in my life where I've felt unsafe, but I've never lived a whole life unsafe and not known what it's like to be safe.
Right.
And to watch him begin to flourish was it was powerful. It was, renewing for me personally that I got to be a part of that and seeing answers to prayer. He ended up going to middle school. He was really succeeding. He had a high IQ. He was succeeding. We went to middle school, started playing football, just was very active, was student, of the month, and just a lot of things. And he ended up being fostered, found a foster family and was adopted by that family. And so, he's gone on, now, I've lost track of him in the last 6 years, but, that was such an important moment for him. He needed that care.
Yeah.
That's what Murphy-Harpst is there for. It's what the staff have been trained to do. But in another sense, at another level, I needed that, right? And that's where, kind of getting back to the passage, this child had a lot of things and issues that Jesus was dealing with and need healing and all that. But the disciples also need to see their inability to help that child, their own inability to help themselves, and the power and the sufficiency of a faithful Savior to be there for them all, right? It is more blessed to give than receive. And Jesus is coming down the mountain to give everything as the blessed one, as the holy one. And we are beneficiaries of that grace. And so to be able to encourage churches and people in the community to get involved in foster care, to wave the banner for the least and a new vision of youth ministry in the church. Right? There's a place for pizza parties and all that, youth retreats, but let's not miss, this important place of giving and the blessing that the Lord will bring in our own lives and transformation.
Sandra Flach, host of the Adoption and Foster Care Journey podcast, and FASD educator Debbie Raymond, invite you to join Hope for the FASD Journey, a virtual support community for parents and caregivers raising individuals with fetal alcohol spectrum disorder, diagnosed or not. This faith-based support community meets online 3 times each month, features special VIP guests, and a private Facebook group for members only, which includes Soul Care Saturday video devotionals led by Sandra and Deb. Both Sandra and Deb are adoptive moms raising kids with FASD and facilitators of the Facets neurobehavioral model. For details and to register, visit justicefororphans.ny.org/hope-community. That's justicefororphans.ny.org/hope-community.
Gosh, that was such a powerful transformation story, not just for that boy, that young man, but for you.
But it's not, ultimately, I know this. I'm still at Murphy-Harpst. It's not about me,
Yeah.
But there is that wonderful mystery of it's more blessed to give than receive. That we were created to be sacrificers.
Yeah.
Really. I mean, Adam's having to give his flesh, right, even before the fall, for the life of a bride he's yet to see. And I think there's just that sense of, as in imitation of Christ, the more we see the beauty of his grace, the more we're finding what we've been created and redeemed to be and to do. And yeah, that means taking up the burden. That means really being there in the crisis, entering into it with a sense of confidence that knows that Christ is long already there before us, there behind us and with us. And we do that in the company of a people, a church, a community, right? Not alone. Jesus went to the darkness alone. He bore the burden alone so that we don't have to do that. And no foster parent, right? No one in this field and what we do in service and ministry, we should not do this alone, right?
Yeah, and that was, our listeners are foster and adoptive parents, children with trauma histories and prenatal substance exposure, like the kids at Murphy-Harpst, our kids that we're parenting, they live in our homes. And
Right.
foster and adoptive parenting can be a long and difficult journey. So Scott, as a pastor, I mean, you've been preaching the word here, and I'm so grateful for that. So as we wrap up, would you leave us with some words of encouragement for our listeners?
Yeah. As a word of encouragement, I want to say thank you. Thank you for feeling the call to love and care for children. Those that you've been given, they've been given to you by the Lord. So you're not alone. You have all the grace of the Lord with you to care for them. And I just want to say thank you for taking that on. And, I'm aware that there's a lot of people around you that are aware of the struggles you may have. And any way we can help give you support and encouragement. There are agencies like Murphy-Harpst. There are other fosterers. There are people out there in church communities ready to, I think, to be there for you. So, continue to love those kids. But that's really my, what I would want to say is thank you, that you were seen and known by a lot of other people doing the same thing. I've just felt that there have been a number of fosterers that I've met that are approaching it in some ways alone, and feel like they lack the resources. And there are resources out there, and we're not doing alone. And to remember the dignity. It's just not the glory that's coming one day, someday, but the dignity that you carry in the presence of the Lord to be in hard places. We have the fellowship. What is it Paul says in Philippians? To share in the fellowship of his sufferings,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
And also in his resurrection.
Mhm.
And there's a fellowship we have with the Lord and the communion that we have with him in this world, to be in the glory of his cross, to be able to bear that cross daily. And this is a way we do that as sacrificers in love. And so thank you for doing it. That's what I would say. Thank you for doing it. Be encouraged.
Oh, well, thank you so much. Scott, if our listeners would like to learn more about the incredible work of Murphy-Harpst, what you're doing there in Georgia, where can we learn more?
Yeah, so our website, Murphy-Harpst, that's MURPHYHARPST .org. It's a great resource. You can find me. You can find a lot of stuff there about us online. And certainly feel free to reach out to me by email, sfuller@murphyharpst.org. Glad to answer any questions and encourage folks to, take the side of a child, right?
I love that. And we will put a link in the show notes to both murphyharpst.org, and I'll put your email address in there as well so our listeners can easily find you. Scott, thank you so much for all that you are doing, you and the folks at Murphy-Harpst, what you're doing in Georgia on behalf of these kids. Thank you so much for sharing your story and this message and your word of encouragement with us today. Thanks so much for being with us.
Yeah, thank you, Sandra. Have a great day.
Thank you. You too. And thank you for listening to this episode today. I hope you were inspired by the encouraging words of Pastor Scott Fuller. In addition to encouraging you through this podcast, I am here to serve you along your adoption and foster care journey with our vital resources. Again, remember that upcoming workshop, Wired Differently, September 16th at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. Link in the show notes where you can register for that. And our other in-person and online workshops, FASD Parent Coaching, where we can do some one-on-one coaching, whether it's a one-time coaching or you want to meet once a month, twice a month, work it out flexible with your schedule. And then, of course, our Hope for the FASD Journey online support group. It is a hope-filling, life-changing community. And if you are raising a child who was exposed to alcohol in utero, you need to be a part of this group. You can find out more about all of our resources at our website, justicefororphansny.org. Just click on the Adoption and Foster Care Journey button on our homepage. And of course, there's a link in the show notes for everything we talked about today, as well as my email where you can contact me directly. Please subscribe to this podcast, follow it, and tell your fellow fostering and adopting friends all about it so that they can listen and be encouraged and equipped too. And if you get a chance, please leave us a review. That's always helpful. And follow us on our social media at the Adoption and Foster Care Journey. I love to stay connected with you there. And as always, I'm so grateful that you spent your valuable time with me today. I am thrilled to have you along for the journey.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Adoption and Foster Care Journey podcast, brought to you by Justice for Orphans. We hope you were encouraged today. Please be sure to subscribe to this podcast and leave a review, and share it with your fellow foster and adoptive parent friends so they can be encouraged too. Be sure to find and follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Justice for Orphans, and check out our website for vital resources at justicefororphansny.org.